And let's play some of this, too. This is one Democrat after another, including Barack Obama, rejecting the so-called nuclear option when it came to federal judges. Now, let me set this up properly. They were filibustering and threatening to filibuster judicial nominees. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's different than filibustering legislation. The reason is it takes two branches to fill the judiciary with judges. Both of them have a role. And it's the president's role to nominate and Congress's role to confirm or not confirm, to consider. But the president initiates the process. And the goal is to fill the third branch. We have three so-called co-equal branches. When you filibuster legislation, that is a fight within one body, that is the Senate. And they can set their own rules. The Constitution says that. But they can't, I argue, set their own rules when it comes to obstructing activities that the Constitution lays out for the other branches. I can get into this more deeply. I'd rather not. I've written about it extensively, or I did in the past, on National Review Online. You can Google it, I guess, probably dig it up. But my point is not to persuade you one way or the other. My point is to tell you that when then Senate Majority Leader Frist and the conservatives were thinking about changing the filibuster rule as applied to judicial nominees, that is, to essentially outlaw it, to require or to allow 51, a simple majority, to confirm a judicial nominee, not to completely throw out the filibuster rule, but when it comes to judicial nominees, well, the liberals went nuts, even though it is they who were violating the Constitution. And we'll just hit one after another, Mr. Producer, and I'll name them as you go through. Here's Barack Obama, April 25, 2005, at the National Press Club, hat tip, Naked Emperor News. Go.
Hasn't gotten his way. And that is now prompting, a change in the Senate rules that really, I think, would change the character of the Senate forever. And what I worry about would be that you essentially have still two chambers, the House and the Senate, but you have simply majoritarian absolute power on either side. And that's just not what the founders intended.
This nuclear option is ultimately an example of the arrogance of power. It is a fundamental power grab. I say to my friends on the Republican side, you may own the field right now, but you won't own it forever. And I pray God when the Democrats take back control, we don't make the kind of naked power grab you are doing.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, the right to extended debate is never more important than when one party controls Congress and the White House. In these cases, the filibuster serves as a check on power and preserves our limited government. But no, we are not going to follow the Senate rules. No. Because of the arrogance of power of this Republican administration.
We are on the precipice of a crisis, a constitutional crisis. The checks and balances which have been at the core of this republic are about to be evaporated by the nuclear option. The checks and balances which say that if you get 51% of the vote, you don't get your way 100% of the time. It is amazing. It's almost a temper tantrum.
You believe these hypocrites?
I've never passed a single bill worth talking about that didn't have as a lead co-sponsor a Republican. And I don't know of a single piece of legislation that's ever been adopted here that didn't have a Republican and a Democrat in the lead. That's because we need to sit down and work with each other. The rules of this institution have required that. That's why we exist. Why have a bicameral legislative body? Why have two chambers? What were the framers thinking about 218 years ago? They understood, Mr. President, that there is a tyranny of the majority.
Yes, so this president has come to the majority here in the Senate
she's back.
And basically said, change the rules. Do it the way I want it done.
Oh, good Lord.
And I guess there just weren't very many voices on the other side of the aisle that acted the way previous generations of senators have acted and said, Mr. President, we're with you. We support you. But that's a bridge too far. We can't go there. You have to restrain yourself, Mr. President.
The nuclear option, if successful, will turn the Senate into a body that could have its rules broken at any time by a majority of senators unhappy with any position taken by the minority. It begins with judicial nominations. Next will be executive appointments, and then legislation.
Now understand, this isn't mere hypocrisy. This is super-duper hypocrisy. They were using the filibuster day in and day out against judicial nominees, never before done in this fashion in American history. There was a threat or a use once to a Supreme Court nominee. It was a very unique circumstance. Again, no point in getting into that. But they were using it left and right, left and right, left and right to block truly qualified individuals from going on the court because they wanted liberal, radical activists. A misuse, an unconstitutional use of the filibuster. Now here, the filibuster was, quote-unquote, invented for this exact purpose. The attempt to rush through legislation that will have a potentially permanent fundamental change to this society, to slow the system down so a simple majority can't change and transform this nation forever. And we don't hear from them. And worse yet, Harry Reid says, oh, stop crying about the record. Stop crying about all this. They've turned this entire society on its head. So Obama and Biden and Reid and Schumer and Dodd and Clinton and Feinstein, will people, that is reporters, confront them with their hypocrisy? Our friend at Politico, are you going to contact them and ask them? Are you busy chasing the birthers? Because this is real stuff. They can't justify this. They can't square it. Because they're power-hungry hacks. Utterly and completely out of control.